guys, Owen here. I'm just here to introduce episode one of The Green Room. Unfortunately, our Zoom cut out the beginning of our conversation. Where it cuts, we're talking to Sean Gilligan about quarantine and about the pandemic. Our buzzword this week was COVID. So the challenge was that he couldn't say that if you're confused by anything. Where the conversation cuts in, he's talking about a video he released when the government released guidelines and released nothing for the arts and artists. And the video basically sums up how he felt and challenging politicians and members of the public to go 24 hours without arts to understand the exact contribution that we have and that artists have in Ireland today and in general. It was a really, really fun conversation. Unfortunately, we missed so much because Zoom just decided not to record some of it, but everything else is there. Everything else is good. And it was such a fun conversation. So give it a listen, enjoy, and tune in next week.
On dance, we still have not gotten an answer for that, which is an issue I can circle back to. But so yeah, and I made that video, and then that just kind of spiraled, and there's something like 60,000 hits on it across platforms. So it got really big and a lot of traction. And then there was a second video as well. It also in response to the fact that a week later nothing had been said or done. I've tried to move things for us. Unfortunately, we don't have a unifying arts body because we're not, essentially, it comes down to money. And we can look to the UK all we want and we can be sad, but the reality is we're not worth that money to the government, so we're less relevant. I have the other flip side of that coin though, and I say, but they forget that we write the stories and the songs.
Yeah.
And they should be thinking about what will be written. Because and that's not in any threatening way, that's in a matter of fact way. And it's going to be a sad Ireland from that perspective. Now, from an artistic perspective, where there was loads of glimmers of hope in the UK. Like my friends in the UK who have schools and the big schools, Sylvia Young and all them, they were all open. And they were only recently now had to close, but like they've all been open. So it's very sad to see it, but it's just what other answers do we have other than money? But that's not surprising here.
Not at all.
Yeah, and then I actually started my master's in Guildford School of Acting, which is fantastic. So long distance. So yeah, I'm doing that. So that's keeping me occupied, to say the least. And set up a Zoom studio up in Sparkle Costume, which is brilliant. So it means that we're not Zooming from our homes, and there's only one person ever there, so it's very safe. But it's that pressure of not having to Zoom from your front room, right? Exactly, I had two big dance mirrors there all the way through lockdown. So, but yeah, it's been a mixed bag, up and down. I like everyone. Yeah, everyone's yo-yoing. Yeah. When you talk to your friends, like a really good friend of mine, Emma Gannon, she runs Irish Ballet School, and I had a really tough time in June, and she was like, Sean, we're not doing what we're supposed to do. Like what we do, we're not allowed to do. So, it's quite frustrating, because what we do is so specific. And it's not like we can go to a different department, that this is just what we do, So
it is quite scary. And you look at like primary schools being allowed to go back to soccer and go back to hockey and stuff. And, primary school drama departments kind of being left in the rough. And for a lot of young kids, that's where their like introduction is to the arts. Yeah. And with that theme now going on to youth and being young, we're going to move on now to how you got into theatre. Cast your mind back. Tell us where that all started, how it all started, and just talk us through it all. Bring us on your journey.
So I grew up in a very theatrical family. My mum was a theatre director. She started her career in the 70s. So she was a female theatre director in Ireland, which was pretty... She was she is a very strong lady, let's say. She the phrase "takes no prisoners" would be accurate for mum. Old school, but by God, she got a job done. When I was born, it was somewhere in the 80s. I'd like to think it was later in the 80s than earlier in the 80s. When I was born, then we grew up in it. So she was producing Tops of the Town. She also had there's a funny story, actually, anecdote. She was directing the Irish premiere Pippin, and when she was pregnant with me, and I think the show went on in September. I was born in the August, and I saw Pippin, then the Broadway revival. I kind of knew bits of it that I'd done in shows, but not the actual whole thing. I found myself sitting there humming along to the whole soundtrack that I had never listened to, which that's a bit now like...
That's a bit weird.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so we grew up in it. Like both myself and my little brother Brian, and my older brother Paul was a theatre director as well. So it was everywhere, literally everywhere. My first gig was as a Care Bear when I was 4, in Tops of the Town. There is footage of it out there. I'm not going to say what group it was. I'm not going to say it because people will go rooting, but there is Care Bear footage out there of me smiling and waving and, doing the gig. And from then on, that was me hooked. I went to Royal School of Dance, which was literally just around the corner. That was actually ran by my sister-in-law's mother and 2 other Royalettes. They were dancers who used to work in the Theatre Royal in Dublin.
Mm.
And the Theatre Royal used to run a show every night of the week. So they danced, I think it was, 6 nights of the week. And while they were, let's say, had one show on, they were rehearsing another one during the day. So this was, I think it closed in, I want to say, the 70s, possibly, maybe earlier. But loads of people would know the Royalettes. A lot of the big schools stemmed from the Royalettes. So yeah, that's where I danced. And then I went to the Artane Boys Band. And then musically, the rest is kind of history. I took to it. I loved it. And at the age of 11, I was playing in Carnegie Hall and in the White House for President Clinton, and it was all real windy. And then I moved on to the College of Music. But at the same time, my mum then founded, with a group of church readers, she just put on Joseph in St. Anthony's Little Theatre on the Quays, sadly no longer there. We had a big connection to the theatre because my brother owned the Riverbank Theatre, which is now the Riverbank Court. I think if you see it driving by, it was the theatre, and he owned that. So grew up there too, not a chance. And then St. Anthony's was where we did our first show, and then that just kind of grew over and over and over. So really, the school was founded on a culture of production and learning by production. So yeah, it got bigger and bigger, and I kind of took over the music end when I was about 15, and then I took over the dance then completely when I was about 18. So it was great because I went back to dance then. I had let the dance go, and I got back to it and just did it, and I loved it, and I suppose I haven't looked back since.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it was a very funny thing, people say come to shows and some were at Panto. I think some UCD guys were at Panto last year, and they were like, Sean, we didn't know you do that. And I was like, well, yeah, because I didn't perform for a very long time. I took a massive step back away from performing and just was literally doing the production stuff. I know 10 years ago, I found my diary from 10 years ago, 2 weeks ago, and I was like working with, I think, 8 stage schools as well as doing my own at one time, which is like crazy. And school shows. So yeah, so I suppose I've turned a different direction now, and it's just focusing in on my own work and kind of collaborating and stuff like that. So yes, that is my story. Yeah.
I mean, I'd be very similar. I kind of have similar story. And it's mad, like it's so weird because people in sports and people in like other groups, you wouldn't hear similar stories to how you got into it. It's always like an interest. But with musical theatre, it's mad. It just seems to be something that's ingrained in you from such a young age.
Yeah.
So we'll go on to Sean Gilligan Performing Arts, which is a huge group in Ireland, in Dublin especially, of course. But everyone seems to have heard of it. You guys always do so well every year. Ames nominations, all these things coming home. So when did that start? Like, when did that become something in your head that you wanted to run? And how did it grow from there?
So the school was kind of doing 2 productions a year. Sean Gilligan Performing Arts was formerly called FACT, which was the school that my mum set up. And mum never set it up as a school; she just set it up as a performing group. And now I suppose it's changed. It's morphed completely. I suppose in 2011 we moved from St. Pat's College, where we were doing our shows, to the Helix. And during the move, a gentleman called Connor Coyle was working for the Helix there. You might know his mum, Gladys Coyle. She's a very active director and producer. And Connor and I sat down and we came up with the Helix Summer Camp, which was a camp that took place in the venue for 3 weeks and would finish in a musical. So it would be a big group of children, and then an adult chorus as well would come in on top of that, and a professional front line. And we did The Wizard of Oz in 2011. And it's mad to look at that cast now, because Pat McElwain was the wizard, the director, Pat McElwain. Dave Latham was the line. It's all loads of Ames people. And James Deegan, who was Jesus for me there in Jesus Christ Superstar, was the Tin Man. And Brian, my brother, was the Scarecrow, and who's now, you know, West Ending it and touring it. And Stephanie Keown, one of my best friends, who was going to play Anna on the West End in Frozen, was Dorothy. So it's and of course Rob Murphy, who is very known as the Buffy in the Cheerios panto. Rob was the Wicked Witch. So it was this lineup of amazing people, and it was a very magical thing. But that ran for 4 shows. We did The Wizard of Oz, following summer Annie, following summer Peter Pan, following summer Aladdin. And I took a summer off after that, and between one thing or another, we just decided the partnership wasn't working between the Helix and myself. Through nothing bad, it was just, it didn't work out. It wasn't going the right way. We had to stop and think. And then I decided to independently produce High School in Les Miserables in the same year I did Aladdin, and that was the game change. Okay. So I did an open call, you know, big massive risk, open call. Just did it as the pilot year. We were going to see, right, there's going to be no cost involved for people here, nothing at all. We're just going to see what happens. And I will never forget that weekend of auditions. It was like my eyes were open to just how talented Irish people are. And that's awful for me to say that as an Irish person, but I was like, holy jamoli, like it was incredible. And then from then, I still have the connections with all of those people, and they're in and out of my life. Like Sean Keeney writes my panto, he was my Valjean. Keela, who's in panto with me each Christmas, she was Fontaine, like, and Sure Wallace, who from UCD was Fontaine also. Like there was big connections there, and it was the same production team. It was Killian and Sarah that did it with me with Les Mis, that were the same from the 2 community musicals. I don't know if you guys remember them, but when the first time Phantom was done here was by UCD Community Musical. So once Les Mis hit, then it was like, right, the man in the mask is coming back again, the man in the boat. But in many ways, it was a different production to UCD. Obviously, we didn't have the money for the big LED wall and stuff like that, but we had a bigger cast, so it was a different animal, and a bigger stage was a different animal. But that was really, I think Phantom was the first one that really put us on the map. And even though Les Mis was fantastic, but Phantom really just nailed it in. It was like Les Mis, the Phantom was the proof that Les Mis wasn't a fluke, you know. And then I teamed up with MSPA, Leah Mar's mum and auntie's school, Susie Michelle, who I absolutely love, and we did West Side Story the following year. So, and that was really cool. And then the year after that, we did Cats, and West Side was amazing. Like, to me, West Side, like, people came out going, "This is the best West Side I ever saw." Sadly, we didn't put it in for Ames Awards. At the time, we didn't know that you can do that. I don't know, we were all laboring under the misapprehension that it wasn't possible, and it would have been possible. And then we did Cats the following year, which was a very special show, I think. I don't know if anyone saw it. We took it and we set it in a modern metal scrapyard at the docks of a quay kind of thing. So it was great. And then, of course, we did Legally Blonde with, and Keira Lyons was our lead. So my connection to UCD is actually quite, it's huge. Yeah. And then last year was JCS. So all of which enjoyed really, like, fantastic reviews from public, and then also success at Ames, which is lovely to get the acknowledgement. So it's lovely.
Absolutely. So unreal shows there. And, like, again, it's so funny to hear, like, all these shows that you've done that either myself and Keane have done. Some of those myself and Keane have done together. And like, it's so weird because, as you said, you know, you see maybe UCD put on a show, then you take something yourself and it becomes something completely different based on something as small as cast size. Like, it's mad how much a show can grow.
I think people have shows in boxes as well sometimes. Do you know what I mean? And my favorite thing in the entire world is take the show out of the box.
Yeah.
Like, the big thing, and that happened in both the community musicals. Can I say that to you lads as well? Like, that I directed, my puppy is at my feet. Yeah, it happened with the 2 community musicals that I directed. Like, Phantom with an LED wall, I was told, you are, and like, people got angry with me. like proper angry with me, because back then LED wall was dirty, it was commercial, and you're like, oh please, like, but yeah, and doing it in a place that had no flying, like, you think how much Phantom actually does rely on flying, like what Sarah did with that and what Fola did with that, like from a technical perspective, they were amazing. Of course, we had amazing Megan on board, which was just phenomenal. And then the following year, our Jesus Christ Superstar was kind of, it was kind of because people saw one of the newer saw the version in Regent's Park, the open air, and people were like, oh my god, did they come and see our UCD? We were like, no, they didn't come and see our UCD, but it was kind of nondescript Middle Eastern, kind of very, very similar, and it was really wacky and really in your face and put the orchestra on stage. So each time we kind of pushed what people thought the show was, you know, and that's kind of, I think, my thing. So I really enjoy challenging the preconceived notion, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, I really love what you did with that recent one. I just thought, like, bringing it into this kind of contemporary context in a way that, like, hasn't really been done that much with JCS. I know it's been done with the Tim Minchin production.
Yeah.
But, like, I think you added a strong political context, which is really, really interesting.
It was a risk, though, you know, like, it was a risk. Like, I mean, you don't know who's in your audience, right? You don't know how people feel, but you have to say something, you know. I mean, having a Roman flag which actually had stars and stripes and a gun on it, and having that American eagle instead of the Roman eagle, I think the point was gotten across, you know, because I think sometimes we need to step back and look and see what, you know, national heroism is and all that jazz and what actually happens. And I think there's things that could be said, you know, without ever saying anything directly, but that could be said. And that production was important. I mean, we took it there again, like the risks in it, the risk factor was high in that. Like, I mean, people were coming, you know, the musical society audience, the public were like the following we'd have in the Helix were coming, and the Temple was a sex club, like, let's call it, like it was, and it was full on, and there were risks, and we had a child portraying the devil, Sunny, who was amazing. Avi, the choreographer's daughter, she's amazing. She's 6, and her acting ability is just insane. But yeah, it was a big risk, and we all knew it. Emma Gannon, who was one of the choreographers as well, Emma who does the ballet, and she was in Jesus Christ Superstar in Mexico for a number of years, and she knew. I could see it in her face at every rehearsal. Like, she was like, you know, what you're doing with this is like pushing it. But I'm like, well, if we can't push it, then, you know, what are we here for? You know, it's kind of our job to push it. So, you know.
You've done a lot of talking, but not a lot of drinking. So we're going to do a quick.
Yeah, no worries.
Got to get that in as well. That's our selling point here. Like, you have a huge point there about politics. And I think in Ireland especially, Ireland is stuck in such a political bubble where shows that push the boat out are rarely put on. Like, you'll see shows like Miss Saigon put on the board, gosh, but it's traditional Miss Saigon or Les Mis and stuff like that. Have you ever had a show where you've really been pushing the boat out and there's been something at the back of your head where you're like, maybe this isn't for Irish audiences, maybe Irish audiences aren't modern enough yet for this kind of experience?
2 things, actually 3. Both JCSs, both the UCD JCS and my own JCS. In UCD, the production team as a whole came to the opinion that I had to pull certain things back. And in my own, the version of the Temple nightclub that went on the stage is actually the tame version of what was done in the rehearsal room. So, but you're right, because if it was actually, I'd even go so far as to say, if it was put on in Belfast, an eyelid wouldn't be batted. We still do have it's our predilection towards the Catholic mentality and towards the shock factor. We just haven't crossed that bridge yet. We're getting there. We've got our feet in the bridge, or we haven't crossed it yet. I suppose, yeah, I mean, like they would be the 2 biggest. I thought of the 3rd one now, and I was like, God, are they ready? Yes. So I've had the rights for Priscilla, Queen of the Desert since 2016, and I'm not going to lie to you, I just haven't had
amazing musical.
I haven't the bottle to put it on. So I saw it 10 times on the West End. Like, it was my pre-Saturday night out in London. It was a tradition by the end of it. you know, and I saw the tour there, Fola, who was with UCD. Fola is actually stage managing the recent UK tour that was obviously cut short. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to do it. I just don't know when, because everything's getting pushed this way. I suppose, like, there's been talk about doing it in different venues, but the problem with Priscilla is that it is a massively technical show, and me being me, and the company being the company that the name that we have, we will have the 20-foot bus that will rotate and chew, and that has to happen. It just it has to happen. I saw the cheats and the LED screens and all that. It is not the bus. Priscilla is called Priscilla, and Priscilla is the name of the bus, so you have to have the bus. It's kind of like doing like just 2 lights for the helicopter in Saigon. You need to have the front and side of a helicopter for Saigon, like you need a barricade in Les Mis. And I don't think, part of me feels, and that's the other thing, that I don't think I've ever had quite the pot of money to go, let's do this now. And the costumes have been gradually built over the years, so we were almost at having a full show of costumes and really fantastic stuff, almost. But it's the set would be the big thing there, the bus, of course. So but yeah, watch this space. Watch this space.
Can't wait. It's such a class musical. It's unreal. I love it. It's an unreal musical. So with that in mind then, and with, you know, the virus, as we'll call it, or we'll just say COVID and have a drink there. What is your plan for the future? You've been talking about using this time to work on things like your masters and work on like other things and focus on yourself a bit more. So what's the plan for SGPA, upcoming projects? You messaged us about a competition upcoming as well. So you'd love to hear loads about that.
Cool. So we launched with another UK group, we've launched a competition called MOTIF, which is Musical Theatre Ireland Festival. And we will be expanding next year outside Ireland. The uptake has been insane. The level of stuff coming in is fantastic. It's such a broad spec across the ages. MOTIF is there is a gap. There's the fantastic R&R Fesh out there, which is brilliant, but it's the only musical theatre competition actually out there for soloists. So and I also feel I grew up in competition, lads, and to be totally honest with you, if it's not completely legit, then I am absolutely not interested. I've worked in kids competitions where there's been decisions made that were simply wrong, and I just said I'm not going to do that. So, and I'm not afraid to say it was wrong. So I have 2 fantastic ladies judging this. Sarah O'Connor, who is like, I mean, she's been everything. Les Mis, waitress. She, you know, Sarah's amazing, and she's first cover Anna coming up in Frozen, and the you know, first lady of Irish musical theatre, Jacinta White. Like, she is just amazing, who should be on the international tour of Cats at the moment. She should be in Grisabella in China. I think she was due to be back in Europe. I think she was saying to me now at this stage. But yeah, so like they would be really, really an important thing for me to show that, like, I'm directing it, Jake Carter's presenting it, and that I really feel that having 2 female judges is something that's important, and I don't think it's happening enough. I half joke, not joke at all, when I say if women were running the country, things would be quite different. But I also believe in that, like, I see it all the time, lads, and I know as you get older, you probably see it all. Probably not where you are, but sexism is alive and well in the theatre industry. Let me tell you, because it's always been like, especially in tech theatre. Like, my God, like the women are forced to work twice as hard now. Not so much now, and I have to say the Helix is an amazing place to work. The girls in the Helix and the lads, they are just unreal. They just do anything for you. But yeah, so back to MOTIF, I'm really excited for the 2 ladies to be judging. So that's going to be the entries for that, and it's actually open to up to age 21. So I'm sure there's people in the UK that should do it. There's cash prizes and everything. Everyone gets individual feedback from the judges, which is kind of cool. You get your I did it cert, and it's also streamed live. Not streamed live, sorry. It's streamed on December 5th and 6th. So the younger sections are on the 5th, and then the older sections are on the 6th. And there's a glitzy opening and a glitzy finale, you know, bit of sequence, course. There's showgirls, so that's going on, which is really exciting. And then SGPA are just waiting to open their classes so that we can put on the whiz that was cast, that was 6 weeks away from happening. And all the costumes are in sparkle and they're just waiting to happen. So we want to get that, and we have a big year lined up. If we can get the whiz done at Easter, like John dear me, if we can get it on at Easter, we'll have our usual full school show in May. That happens every year, and that is 300 people on and off the stage like 6 times. It's an operation, let me tell you. And then in the summer, we are bringing High School Musical to Wexford. So we're running a camp down in Wexford, which means that, you know, you've got the Southeast there that are going to get a massive big summer camp, and into High School Musical, which everyone's like, oh my God, it's so cheesy. I'm like, I love it. Like, love it. And then we're hoping to do We Will Rock You in the summer in the Helix.
Unreal.
So it's a big year. And then if we can get all that done, Miss Kerry Ellis, who the West End star, is coming over to headline our 25th anniversary concert, which interestingly will now take place in our 28th year. Like, it's just been mental. So
getting old, Sean, getting old.
Yeah, I know. Don't even.
Don't look a day over 20. Don't look a day over 20. But it's just to encourage everyone. So MOTIF, as Sean said, get your entries in. If you're in the age bracket, get them in. Like, you won't get an opportunity again to get feedback from such unreal judges, like 3 class faces of theatre. So get them in, get yourself involved. You may as well. We all know you aren't paying attention to online lectures. Let's be real here. So get your entries in, sing a song, do a dance, and just have a bit of crack. So we'll also get people, if you want to ask questions or submit Never Have I Evers. Cian, I think you've a few things ready anyway while we wait for people to send in questions. So we'll get ready for that.
Questions. Please bring them in and keep the activity coming in. Yeah, Sean, we just want to get a few drinking games going, because I feel there's no better way when we have the drinks in hand. We might as well get started. So yeah, we're going to start with a few Never Have I Evers, theatre Never Have I Evers.
Okay,
so you know the rules. We drink if we have. So the first one I'm going to start with is, never have I ever farted on stage.
Go on, Sean, tell us the story.
Great experience.
You know, big dance shows, you're moving a lot. And especially like Panto 2-show days. And Panto 2-show days are a 2:30 and a 6:30 show. You have 1 hour. I usually leg it home and get something to eat. But then, like, sometimes you're like really lazy and you're like, oh, I'll do the takeaway thing and have it there. Like, and the second show on Panto can be pretty stinky up there. Like, it's not just me. Like, it's pretty stinky. And actually, like, the girls are notoriously worse than the boys. Can I just have that moment? Like, the pre-concept. You know, like,
we did our house last year in UCD, and there was, when I say an absolute bomb let off.
I heard that was you, Cian,
on stage, and it was like an atomic bomb. But there's a bit of dispute as to whether it was the girls or the lads, but I suspect it might have been the girls now.
I reckon it was Cian Gallagher. I'm putting that out there. He was trying hard to cover it up. I did Legally Blonde, another big dancey show, and it was during Bend and Snap, where I had a big costume change coming up, and I had done the thing, you know, grab a takeout, it's grand. Didn't have the time during the day because I was working in the afternoon, and it was horrible. It was a belter. Like, it was so bad. It's the worst feeling ever, but it's the funniest story. So go on, Cian, embarrass us some more.
Okay, we'll go for another one. Let's find one now. Never have I ever kissed one of my character love interests off stage. I actually think I have.
So, like, your character on stage, love interest off stage?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
I think I'm going to get abusive text messages, but that's
okay, never have I ever fell on stage. Have you ever fell on stage?
Yeah, I have. There was one year during the Hilton, floor was not coaxed properly before the wooden floor came in, and we were using this kind of rubbery one, and I wasn't on my own. 3 of us were going on for a tap, and it was a pretty quick change beforehand. I think we had 30 seconds head to toe, and we stood, dressers did it, we went to go and went boom. Now luckily I kind of tripped forwards, which was fine, but one of my fellow performers, she's a notorious faller on stage. I mean, I shouldn't laugh, but like she actually falls most of the time when she's walking on stage. She just falls. And she went pretty bad. Like she fell. I shouldn't laugh. It was quite funny at the time. And we were all going out to do a Mac and Mabel number, which was kind of cheeky anyway. So there were tears falling down our eyes anyway when we're doing, and the audience were laughing at us, and we all had great crack. But yes, that was as far as I went. I think like I've done a couple of trips, like, you know, a couple of trips, but yeah.
Very good, very good.
What about yourself? Have you ever fallen over? We need to hear the stories. Yeah, you. You're not getting away easy.
Well, I told you that story briefly the other day. I tell you, Sean, I was doing Annie in The Mermaid in Bray a few years ago. I think it was one of the first ever shows I did, and I was wheeling President Roosevelt around in the wheelchair, and as you do, there's a pit in The Mermaid, and I was wheeling a little close to the edge, and when I say that I pushed a little too far into the edge and just went into the fucking pit, yeah, bad moment. They had to stop the show and start again. It was,
Jesus. When we were kids, we did something in the Olympia. We did it was an opening of a show, the Starlight Express, and you know the Olympia rake is like that. Yeah. We were fine. We came on in twos, and 2 people went, but then another 2 people went, and 2 of the girls went bang, like no, like pits are dangerous.
They are, absolutely.
Yeah,
mine was in The Mermaid as well. Big fall during West Side Story, so literally a year ago. Big leapfrog moment, and I stuck it, and now I have the coordination of like a fish out of water. Like I'm awful. So I landed, and I was like so proud of myself. I was like, yeah, fucking did it. Like, screw you for doubting that I could do this. And then I just stumbled and slid like on my belly along the floor, and it was just the worst thing ever. Absolutely terrible. So with that story, we're going to talk more about onstage fuck-ups, because what better way to get the drinking going? So we drink to forget, don't we, guys? So let's talk about that. Has there ever been like a moment when you've been on stage, or you don't even have to name names if it's something you've directed or something you've watched, where there's just been like the biggest mess up ever?
Yes, there's a couple of them. And one was in a panto that I directed, and it was in previews, and one actor got confused with the front of cloth scenes. So, you know, in panto, generally in some pantos, the set would work, you'd have a big open scene, and what they called the on the road cloth traditionally, where the actors would keep the story going, and they came out and started to deliver the wrong set of lines, but they were leading the scene, so the rest of the actors had to follow. They skipped from Act 1, Scene 2 to Act 1, Scene 6, which was pretty hilarious, because then they had to come back out and do the whole scene all over again 25 minutes later, which was good fun. I've had some clangers, general like blank moments. It definitely happened this year. My line, I was a wizard in panto this year, and in Dublin panto, and I came running on, and my line was, I sense that the wicked queen is near. And I came out and said, I sense that the wicked queer is near. And yeah, that happened. And then like that was game over. Like game over for a good 2 minutes. People just lost it. Like so yeah, there's been some of those. I've also witnessed some interesting on stage mess ups. Generally costume ones that are pretty funny. Like not funny, but like I've seen some really like close calls. We've had some interesting technical ones as well. On the opening night of West Side Story, Maria and Anita's apartment came crashing into one of the crashing into the playground pieces. Like, I mean, not funny at the time at all. Like it was really like quite serious. But when I look back, and we look back a little lightly because we had, but like that was and I mean, it crashed in. And the girls had to go on with the scene because lights came up. don't know why. And the lights came up and the piece was there and they were trying to get it. Like, I mean, yeah, you can imagine now how I reacted to that. I wasn't.
I shouldn't be laughing, but
it's a funny image. It's a funny image.
It's fraud, isn't it? Like you've got that thing where you're kind of like, there's a happiness in other people's misery or something. Do you know what I mean? Because you're so glad it's not happening to you. Like, you know, but yeah, when it is happening to you, I mean, I don't know how the girls did it, certainly. I don't know how they did it. They were amazing, but yes.
Isn't there so many moments in theatre where there's just so much that's close to the bone, lads? Like, I feel like even with like safety and for security, and you could just, you know yourself, like you're hanging out of set pieces like there's no tomorrow, you're pushing set pieces around, you feel like, you know, the worst things could bloody happen, and you just, there's something when you're on stage, you're invincible, like, it's just nothing can bloody harm you, like, you just go for it.
Yeah, man. I remember years ago we were using a hydraulic lift for Aladdin, and Amy Walsh, who now teaches in the school, was playing the magic carpet, and my mum was directing the show, and my mum was side stage, and the lift got stuck in St. Pat's. And my mom made the kids jump 5 feet into her arms, like off stage. Like, then my mom was crazy. Like, I'm a bit crazy too. Like, I'm a bit crazy too. But yeah, like it's the more tech stuff that's there, the more that's happening, the more that could go wrong. So you need good stage managers. Good stage managers.
So someone in our comments said that their dad saw Jesus Christ Superstar last year and said it was better than what they saw on board Gosh. So that's a huge compliment there. My phone is acting up. It might die. So, Cian, if you could be on hand to swap over to the live. We apologize to anyone watching if there's an interruption, but great interaction going on anyway. So, we'll go on to what I'd be most excited to talk about. I think I love the idea of just these conversations. I think you could interview someone for hours, but it's just something really fun about talking about like favorite shows. So, let's say, you know, you're talking about money earlier in Ireland. Let's say Micheál Martin gets his head out of his ass and he decides, right, I'm going to donate a bunch of money to the arts and I'm going to get Sean Gilligan to direct this huge show, complete artistic freedom. What's the show?
If it was something new, I'd be hitting something like a Newsies or something along that vein. I would absolutely love to do bigger stagings of Jason Robert Brown's work. It's something that's been in my heart for a very long time, and no one has done it yet, I don't think. So bigger stagings of those pieces, which I think are going to be, they're huge. Absolute dream would be probably Into the Woods. It's one of my faves, faves, like big time. And I really want to put it on in like Marley Park.
Wow.
I mean that's always been a dream, either St. Anne's Park or Marley Park. I just want to put like that type of show on, and I would love to. What I'd love to do is form a theatre company that it wasn't venue specific, that it could be custom venues and different things could be done in different places. And I think that's adding another dimension to it. Of course, I could say to you, yes, I'd love to do Miss Saigon and I'd love to do Les Mis, and they are fantastic. And I really do want to do Miss Saigon if anyone gets the rights to Miss Saigon. And I've loved doing Les Mis and stuff. But yeah, I'm ready. I'm kind of going for the older I'm getting, the smaller I'm getting with them. You know, I suppose it's you know, when you played with all the chandeliers and the pyros and then the trapdoors and the hydraulics, and it's all great, but then you start your attention goes a different way, I think.
Yeah.
So
and have you found small shows limit you less? Like we were talking earlier about Phantom and how, you know, shows like Phantom and Les Mis, you have that expectation. You have to have the chandelier, you have to have the barricade. Grease, you have to have the car. Like there's the big shows really limit you. So like I feel Into the Woods is one of those shows where you could do almost whatever you want with it, because there isn't really a set that you have to stick to.
Yeah.
So how do you find that putting on a show? And let's say you're putting on your dream show, and as you said, it's not a venue specific location. Would you always, with a company like that, would you always go for the smaller shows to give you that freedom?
Like, yeah, because I think what I would call a concept show as opposed to a narrative show. Like I know every show has a plot and a narrative, but I call JC a concept show. I don't know why I call them that, because you can just literally take things and move things onto things, you know. I think Into the Woods is the same. I saw a fantastic production of Into the Woods years ago in the Lear, where it was done like a 50s comic, And it was just two pianos. There was no orchestra as such. Two pianos in Colts in it, and it was insane. It was from the grads here in the Lear, and that was one of the best Into the Woods I think I've ever seen, professional or otherwise. So, and I loved the fact that is it's you can do anything with it. I recently learned though, here was I going, oh, it's such a great idea to modernize things. And then when you realize that that's been going on since like 600 BC with the Greeks, then you go, oh, we're not the only ones to think this. So, but I love that idea of like, that I suppose it dates back to Greek theatre, doesn't it? It's like that anything can be mapped onto anything. Absolutely. If it's a good story. So there's stuff that is just a plot with nothing else going back behind it, but then there's other stuff that you could really do stuff with. So yes, and they tend to be smaller shows, less characters, more full characters. So yeah.
And would you have like anyone in the industry that you just love to work with? Someone, West End performer, Broadway performer, anyone, like someone in your mind that you go, yeah, that's the person I want to work with?
Like, I'm not going to lie, I can't tell you how buzzed I am. I'm going to be working with Kerry Ellis. I actually can't. Like seriously, like I went to see We Will Rock You, I think in 2004, and then that used to be the Pilgrimage show, I used to call them, and then it changed to Priscilla. And so I saw her in various roles, and I saw her in Wicked. I am like beyond buzzed to work with her. My actual dream is Sutton Foster. I just can't. I've seen her a number of times on stage. I saw her in Young Frankenstein, so anything goes. She is actual heaven on stage. Like, she's a slice of
unbelievable.
Like, she's just heaven. And you know what the interesting thing is? She never graduated from college and all that sort of thing. She just went and worked, And I work with a couple of girls who are very similar. That, like the whole UK college thing, and everyone's like, oh, you must do this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why would they go when they know what they're doing? Yes, they need a certain level of technical training to preserve themselves physically and all that sort of thing. But you got it. And Sutton Foster is the proof of it, So you're like, and boy, does she have it. So yes, the pipe dream would be that Sutton Foster would be doing something. And funny, I'm actually writing something that I'm not allowed to give any details about because it's with someone from UCD. Yes, myself and Sean Carrick are working on something together, but I am not allowed to give out any details about it. But pipe dream is that Sutton Foster is going to be in that show on Broadway. So that's the pipe. Yeah.
Terrific.
That sounds huge. Well, whoever it is, if you're watching, you can trust Cian and I. We can give you some tips if you want. We'll get it out of you somehow.
We just have some questions here. We might just get around.
Brilliant.
Well, not questions, but suggestions of shows. Just to go back a bit, Maybird Flynn said the Commitments will be class. Definitely, I'd love to see. Have they ever released the rights for the Commitments?
So no, it was due to tour again. James, who was Jesus, it was to be cover deco on the tour, but that didn't happen. I think they were due to go. Oh God, now. Maybe they were due to be in rehearsal in the summer. That's what it was. And they were due to kick off in September, but I think that's all moved back here. But I don't know, you see, because it was, I don't know what company would hold those rights for something like the Commitments. And it's the same with Motown. I haven't seen the rights for Motown out and all that sort of thing. So a lot of the more solely jukeboxy ones, I don't know, because a lot of them are held in US rights, and the problem is getting them from America to here. That's the issue. So yeah, I would love to do the Commitments. I mean, I'd love people to drive into Northside Shopping Centre and watch the Commitments. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, how cool would that be?
Class.
Yeah, it would be.
Anna Bergen says Newsies. Like I said, great choice. The Great Comet, which I mean, that show for me, I think it's magical. Like, and I feel it's been really like underrated in terms of shows. I feel it has sort of, I feel, the same sort of the same elements that something like Hamilton would have had, and something as groundbreaking as Hamilton, but it just never got that recognition. And it surprises me because I just think it breaks boundaries beyond any shows I've seen in a very, very long time.
Yeah, it was a very important piece. I saw it twice on Broadway, and I actually saw it the same week I saw Anastasia, Bette Midler in Hello, Dolly, and it was still, and Dear Evan Hansen, and it was still the best show out of all of them. I recently did an extract from it, and by God, is it hard to sing? Let's just have that moment. And even harder to teach the singing of it. But it's a great show. So I don't know, a lot of Irish people wouldn't even know about it and wouldn't have seen it, and they really need to look up. Josh Groban was the lead, and then in the end he had to come out of it in the last year, but the guy I saw play the lead was actually the guy who wrote the show, so that was like, so it was like the Lin-Manuel factor, do you know what I mean? It was like, this is something really special, do you know what I mean? So
no,
it's a mad show. I've never gotten into it. It's not quite up my alley, but like one of the things I think, just unfortunately when it was released, you had Dear Evan Hansen, like huge shows returning to Broadway or kicking off on Broadway, and these like huge names performing these shows just completely distracted from it. Yeah. And it's such a shame that like a show like that, I've seen clips, it's unbelievable how immersive it is for the audience, despite being for a Broadway show. It does get quite immersive in parts, and it's mad. Keane, you've got another game to play, haven't you? That we can do.
Yeah, we can roll to it. We're just gonna do a game. We're gonna have 12 questions for you. If you get one wrong, you've got a drink. So we're gonna have to do that. But
oh, there we go.
drink.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sean, we have 12 questions for you. Treat this like the Top Gear leaderboard.
Okay.
So you're going to be top of the table tonight, regardless. So let's see how you get on, right? I'm going to start off here. My first question for you is, bear with me now. Which of these religious observations lasts for the shortest period of time during the calendar year? Is it Ramadan, Diwali, Lent, or Hanukkah?
Hanukkah.
You're wrong. It's Diwali. Drink up.
Get it into you.
Lovely stuff. How many Oscars has Andrew Lloyd Webber won? Is it A, 3, B, 0, C, 1, or D, 2?
2.
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
I think you said 2. You're doing great, Keane.
Oh, I thought you said who?
Oh, sorry, 2.
It's Andrew Lloyd Webber, Sean. Come on, get the program.
It is 1. Sean, that's 2 drinks in a row.
I know, and it was for the Odessa file you won it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my third question is going to be, the hammer and sickle is one of the most recognizable symbols of which political ideology? Is it A, republicanism, B, communism, C, conservatism, or D, liberalism?
B.
You got it. No drinks. Beautiful. That's 1 out of 3. Next up, in Thomas Hardy's novel Far from the Maddening Crowd, who goes to get married at the wrong church? Is it A, Fanny Gabor? Is it B, Fanny Robin? Is it C, Fanny Sparrow? Is it D, Fanny Thrush?
I'm going to go with A.
Fanny Gabor.
Yeah.
Not Fanny, of course.
It was not Fanny Gabor, it was Fanny Robin. But
good old Fanny.
Good old Fanny. Which musical was a reworking of Puccini's Madama Butterfly? Was it A, Miss Saigon? Was it B, South Pacific? Was it C, Carousel? Or was it D, Love Never Dies?
It was Miss Saigon.
Ka-ching. Well done. Fantastic. Owen, are you logging these scores?
I am. 3 wrong, 2 right.
In which musical will you hear the song Pinball Wizard? Is it A, Tommy, B, Amelie, C, Rocket Man, or D, Sunny Afternoon?
It is A, Tommy.
That's the one. Another great musical that is so underrated.
Whopper. Like,
so good. Next question. Richard Gere played the role of Billy Flynn in the film of Chicago, but who played it in the original 1975 Broadway hit? Was it A, John Lithgow, B, John Rubinstein, C, Joel Grey, or D, Jerry Orbach?
It was D, Jerry Orbach.
You got it. Correct. Next question. Typically, what 4 ingredients would go into a cosmopolitan cocktail?
Vodka.
Yes.
Oh. I'm going to say No, I'm not going to say cranberry juice. I'm going to say triple sec.
Triple sec. That's one. Yeah.
Boom. Sugar.
No.
I don't know. They just taste like vodka and cranberry juice. Is it cranberry?
Cranberry juice is one. You got it.
No.
And you got one more.
Lemon. Is there a bit of lemon in it?
Close.
Lime.
We'll give you. Got it.
Hooray!
Fantastic. Now, Sean, I'd be disappointed if you didn't know now what was in a cosmopolitan.
I know. Yeah. I know. Right. I know.
Next up, in Cabaret, in the film version, Liza Minnelli portrayed Sally Bowles. She described her nail color as divine decadence. What color was the nail polish? Was it A, black, B, red, C, purple, or D, green?
Was C purple?
It was green.
Oh, shit. It was either purple or green. It wasn't going to be red or black.
Yeah.
Ooh.
There we go. Who wrote Ireland's Call? Now, I've added in 2 extra answers for this one, so I hope you're ready. Is it A, Queen Elizabeth? Was it B, Bill Whelan? Was it C, Phil Coulter? Was it T, Freddie Mercury? Or was it E, Paul Brady?
Well, it was C, was it? Phil Coulter?
It's Phil Coulter. You got it right?
Oh, man.
Yup
Sports.
Yup Sports is right.
Yup Sports.
Who wrote Angela's Ashes? I'm sure you know that one anyway, do you?
Like, as in, who wrote the book?
Yeah.
Oh, Frank.
Yeah.
Frank. Oh. Oh my God. I forget his second name. Limerick. Is he writer? I forget his second name. His first name is Frank. So can we do a 0.5 point? I mean,
Frank
Yeah.
McCourt.
was he?
Frank McCourt.
Frank McCourt.
We'll give it to him, will we?
I'll give it to him.
Yeah.
I didn't know anyway, so.
Right.
We have one more question in the tank. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I feel this is the toughest question of them all.
This is a great question now.
Which of these is a song from the musical version of The Canterbury Tales? Is it A, I have a regal rooster? Is it B, I have a majestic goose? Is it C, I have a noble cock? Or is it T, I have a wise cock?
I'm saying it's B. The goose.
Is that your final answer?
It can't be C or D. It could be though. I mean, there's some seriously crazy shit out there.
Would we put it in if it was C or D?
Oh, absolutely. You would do it with a straight face, yeah, deadpan, and you would sing that to the audience. They wouldn't be able to breathe laughing, but yeah, like.
Do you want to phone a friend? Is there any
It can't be or D.
Do you want a 50-50? Will I give you a 50-50?
I'd love a 50-50.
So it is between I have a noble cock and I have a wise cock.
Oh, I maybe C then.
Could you say the answer? Which cock is it?
I think it's probably going to be the noble one.
Okay, so your final answer is I have a noble cock.
Yeah.
I'm afraid it's the wrong answer. I'm only joking. No, it is. I have a noble cock. Well done. Fantastic.
So you
How
got
many points is that, Owen?
5.
Oh,
5. Look,
That's a
Sean,
whole
not bad.
hand, Sean. That's a whole hand. If you look at it that way, it's a whole
Yeah.
hand.
I
So
mean, yeah.
you're getting
Fair
there.
play. You're top of the
Yeah.
leaderboard.
And
Yeah.
you're number 1 right now. So that's all that matters. You're winning.
Excellent.
And as you said earlier, you grew up competitive, so being number one must feel good.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, I know with 5, I'm not going to stay number 1 for very long, but that's okay, you know.
You're tonight's winner, and that's
I am tonight's winner. That makes me feel so special inside. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, like, yeah. So
no more cock questions next week, though.
Okay.
So there's no questions, but there's a few comments here. Sorka Peters says, "Say COVID again." So there you go. Thanks, Sorka. And go straight to Irish theatre, because we spoke about it a little bit earlier.
Oh yeah.
But with this wonderful virus, and lockdown being great for everyone, and just such a good time, where do you think Irish theatre is moving? Like, it's growing, as you said earlier. We've got our feet on the bridge. We haven't quite crossed it. So where do you think Irish theatre will grow when we cross that bridge and when we reach that grass on the other side?
I think the opening of Grand Canal Theatre and Bord Gáis changed the game for people here. Before that, you could not see a pro. Well, the Gaiety did have pro musicals, but due to their size, they're limited. And that changed it. And I think we're constantly evolving. There's some really exciting stuff going on. Shamie Campbell is one to keep your eye on. He's an amazing guy, such a good guy, so much goodwill for Shamie. And he's working really hard, and he's got some things going on here, and there are things happening all the time. The issue is that we in the musical theatre scene I don't want to say that we're boxed in by what would be the National Theatre with the Abbey, and the offshoots from that, which it would be unfair to say that, but there is no. I suppose we're just about ready to find our legitimate voice in the country. And if anything's proof of that, is like the success have come from away in the Abbey. I mean, you can say whatever you want about it, about us not having Irish actors. There were Irish actors in that show, and some of them were my colleagues. And it was a very cool thing. Maybe the timing was wrong, I might say that. But it was an amazing piece. And it just went to show that we're ready. But we have to be ready to write the shows as well. We have to be ready to take the risks, and we have to be, I suppose, lose our Irishness and not think about what our neighbour is thinking about us, because it's actually none of our business, and we don't realise how inherently set into our mindset that stuff is. What will they think? What will they say? Whereas you'll find that the countries that don't have that mindset are the ones that are producing most amount of musical theatre and art in general, So I think something's going to happen. I think someone's just going to go, right, I'm doing it, and this is going to happen. And I feel we're on the cusp. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that the piece that I'm working on, that I'm not allowed to say anything at all about, is going to be something very new, and hopefully cool. And I'd be shocked now because I've mentioned it twice and I was only supposed to mention it once. But there's loads of exciting things happening. Do you know what I mean? And there needs to be, the reality is, funding needs to happen for them. The Arts Council are fantastic, but they don't have a specific section for that. And that's the funny part. The sectioning of things isn't the best, really. And COVID has highlighted how many sections there are within the industry, and therefore how much the demand is there for that to be done. So I think that's where we should go. To be honest, like, sometimes you can be disheartened about it, or you can stop crying into your soup and you can go, this is the way it is now. How can we make that better? I think that's the reality. And I'm not going to lie to you, lads. I mean, for 10 years, I cried into my soup and I bitched and moaned. Now I'm like, okay, that's not doing anything to bring it forwards. We got to move forwards. So hopefully we're moving forwards.
I think we are. And it's interesting you brought up Come From Away. It's something that I love. It's easily one of my top 5 shows. Hands down, Come From Away, I think, is just a genius piece of theatre.
Yeah.
And I went to see it in the Abbey and I loved it. And I won't mention the college because the clout I hold in Irish society is just mad, and people might boycott the college. But I got in an argument in an interview to get into that college about Come From Away with the person interviewing me about Irish theatre and all this stuff. And it's mad. And I think you touched on it a bit about how, we had this huge West End cast come to visit the show, come to visit our National Theatre and our country and talk about a somewhat Irish story in some senses, and people got upset about it. I think that's a huge issue with Irishness, and with particularly in the theatre, is a lot of Irish people, shout out to our fathers right now, but a lot of Irish people will find something to be upset about. And I think that's what's keeping us from crossing the bridge.
Absolutely. And I suppose the question then, the ultimate question that we have to ask is, have we actually ever left it being the Abbey of the 1920s?
Mm.
And I don't know if we have. I don't know if we've moved on.
Mm.
And I don't know whether that's a new building, whether that's a new thing. I don't know if it's healthy for the associations with it. Now, I know I'm like, can I just have a moment? I'm really proud to be Irish, like, and I love being Irish, and I'm super proud of this country, and I love these people. But in the area that we all love and work in, it's not the best for us, you know? And I just wonder, have we moved on? And I don't know if we have. I don't know if we truly.
You guys feel like because the talent, obviously, like in this country, is just, it's
insane.
I mean, what we produce for the size of the island, the output we put, but again, it's that thing of, you produce it and we ship it off and we send it over to the UK and we send it over to the States, and it doesn't stay here. And it's like, you say to yourself, why can't we do that? But do you think that's because of the bureaucratic structures that exist? Do you think that's because a lot of the top end is a closed shop, or do you think that's it's just a cultural thing, or what do you think is the...
Honestly, there's two factors in it, right? Number one, there's the gigs, right? Like, I mean, I know from my brother Brian, he would love to be at home with his family in Malahide, with his beautiful wife and two amazing kids, right? But the reality is that in order to bring in the dough, Brian's got a tour. Do you know what I mean? Or they're in London. And for a lot of people, raising families in London isn't the most, let's say, the most desirable. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, loads of my friends are from London, but like it's just not the most desirable. So the reality is, face that if you want to get the money, you got to travel, you know? I mean, a very well-known friend of mine, I can't say who, but she'd be very well known in the media and stuff like that. And she said to me, she's like, Shawnee, you know, all you need to do is go to London and work for a month and everyone will think you're fabulous. And I'm like, I refuse to have to do that. Do you know what I mean? To like, and don't get me wrong, I've done work there, but that's not what I lead with. I like to try and lead with the Irish thing. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
So, but the reality is that it's having, number one, the teachers here. That's the first point. They are here, funny. I know a lot of them. Some of them just aren't working in it anymore. They naturally, as performers, just moved away, especially when they were in the UK, and let's say they came home now and they would have moved into design, retail, various things, you know, and had amazing careers, or physiotherapy and stuff like that. Like, and then there are amazing teachers here as well. Like, I mean, amazing. Like, there's the institutions out there, like the College of Dance, like Bernie Work and Sam. They are fantastic teachers, and the amount of people that they put through. And because there's new stuff coming in, you know, it's easy to find. You got to look at the people who have done these things. There is stuff there, but we just don't have the faculty. Do you know what I mean? Like, and the demands that are being made on these people in these courses in Ireland are not realistic. I understand if they are in London and they are told you can't do any other shows outside, when they are training from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. 5 days a week. However, when an Irish course makes the same demands and is not delivering, number one, the same standard, number two, the same hours, number three, the same fulfillment for them, because they need to feel fulfilled. They're not doing 2 productions a year. They actually are really, really not helping people grow. What they're doing is they're trying to just be like the UK, putting their great big foot down. And this is not helping. This is not helping. We need to have a different approach about how to get our courses there, and then how to build an industry, because it's totally doable. It's just the approach. If we copycat, if we just do what the UK do, that works for them and it's amazing and it's an institution. It won't work for us. We need to do something new, you know, and we need to work together to do something new. I'm not having a go of anyone here, but I'm saying, like, let's talk about it. Let's do it. Like, we need to do it. It needs to happen.
Absolutely. A lot of people here sending Irish flags in. Someone asked what your dream role is.
My dream role? Your
dream role.
The engineer in Saigon. But that was fast. But I did enjoy being Gaston a lot. A lot. And I love, I mean, I always moan about it, but Genie and Aladdin, even though I think I've done Genie a lot. And I'm actually Genie in Dublin Panto, streaming this Christmas on dublinpanto.com. I'm Champ, the Genie of the Lamp. I love being Genie, and I would love to do it in the full musical, because it's great. it's a great thing. Oh, it's just great. I want to do that.
So we've spoken about institutions and stuff. So we'll go on to Ames. As I said earlier, like, you have gotten so much recognition from Ames. This year you brought home a huge award, a huge recognition from Ames, especially. So, like, we'll talk about that for a bit. How does that feel, finding out that something you've put so much love into, so much work into over like years, months, days, all that? How does that feel getting nominated for an Ames award?
It was really special. It was very personal. I remember I was up with Etna, who does the business end of the company. We were up having lunch, and we were looking at it, and it took me a while to sink in that it actually happened. You know, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful nomination to get, and a beautiful award to win. I suppose you do so much work, and especially, and I'm not moaning, I'm just saying, in a country where there is no pro industry as such, a regularly active, there is a fantastic body, but a regularly active culture, you can find yourself doing stuff that there aren't people to do certain jobs, and you find yourself assuming an awful lot of roles. And I'm not going to lie, there's been moments where I'm like, I'm out, I'm absolutely out. But when you get moments like that, when people, when someone acknowledges that, and you know, Ames acknowledge it, and then in turn with the messages and the feedback that I've gotten from other people from that, like genuinely beautiful messages, and it's really heartwarming. And it was actually genuinely what has driven me forwards. I'm not going to lie, I don't believe in necessarily the winning thing to driving people forwards, but this, I suppose, was very special for me, and very personal. And I'm really lucky. Like, I mean, we've done the other one, like amazing other recognitions in the past, you know, as we said, but there was something really beautiful about this one, like, if you will. I don't know if you saw, like, they surprised me yesterday. We were supposed to be.
I did, yeah.
They have
so
to be.
cute.
Yeah,
so,
my
such
God,
a sweet video.
seriously. Yeah, she was in Jesus Christ Superstar. She was the questionable child with Jesus. So yeah, she was, and it was just a beautiful moment, yeah, to see that and to have it in the house. It's just lovely. And I, you know, my mum, like, I still have all my mum's tops of the town awards. Like, there's just this long line of best producer, because they called producer director, and it was just chum, like, literally.
Yeah.
And now I'm like kind of getting there. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting on you, ma'am. I'm nearly there. Like, just about on your heels. So yeah, it's great.
Well, I think that's a lovely note to end on. I'd like to congratulate you on the award. So well deserved. I've seen some of your shows. They're unbelievable. They really do break the boundaries of Irish theatre in so many ways. And you do push the boat, even if you have to pare it back a bit, as you said earlier. By our standards, or by Irish standards, it's still pushing the boat out. So we'll let you head if you want to head, because it's getting late. Sure, you need to get your dogs out for a walk or out for a wee, whatever.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming to our first green room. There's so much more to come. We loved having you as a guest for the first time. I think there's no better way to kick it off. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, lads. It's been amazing. Thank you.
Keep pushing those boundaries.
Keep pushing those boundaries. Good luck, and Priscilla.
Absolutely. See you, boys.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye. Have a good one.
So that's Cian and I this week for the green room. Cian, would you like to give us a teaser as to what's to come to next week?
So next week is a very exciting week, guys. We've got the Mr. Ushi Nolan will be joining us. A man who graced UCD Musical Society for many years and ended up in the West End. So we're looking forward to chatting to Ushi about how he got there, his life story, the route that he took. And yeah, it should be an exciting week next week. Really looking forward to it. Yeah, and just everybody just keep in touch, keep tuning in. We'll get our technical issues sorted out for next week, and we'll get the ball rolling again. And yeah, that's all pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as Cian said, technical issues will be sorted. Sorry about that breakdown in the live earlier, guys. A couple of things popped up that we just didn't expect, but that's to come with COVID. Buzzword for this week. Next week's going to be huge. Tune in, get yourselves down. Oisín has some insane insights to give for musical theatre, and we have some fantastic guests lined up for the season that we can't quite hint at yet, but it is going to be a good time. Thank you so much for coming. We love you all. Take care. That's us for this evening. Hope you all had a good time drinking away. Thank you, Cian, for being this week's quiz master.
Thank you, Ewan, for being a fantastic host.
Would just stop. You're too good.
I'll see you. I'll see you on stage in a few minutes. Good luck.
Can't wait. All right. See you guys.